Yeah, and as the 90s started to roll in, especially in the mid 90s, especially in America, that's when Gen 2 really started, to crop up around the world. And you're Gen 2, that's your generation. So I'm going to let you cook, I'm going to let you talk, because that's your generation.
I mean, basically, and the thing is, there is a little bit of an in between because the Harmony Gold dub came out in '89, but that only aired on some rare markets, and almost nobody had seen it. So yeah, Generation Two was OG Dragon Ball on the WB or syndication, whatever, and it was on for the first arc, and then Dragon Ball Z on syndication. Now you're counting Toonami also, which Dragon Ball had a run on syndication. Dragon Ball Z had 2 seasons on syndication, and then but it didn't really blow up until '98 when Toonami got it, and it was the afternoon slot. Because the problem with Dragon Ball syndicated is that the times were different in every like state you were in, and every television network you were in. So like some stations aired Dragon Ball Z early on Saturday mornings, some aired on Sunday mornings. I remember mine here aired it at 6 a.m. and it was 2 episodes. I do remember that, and that show just looking at how that show looks with the art and Toriyama's world, any kid seeing that will get hooked quickly just on the visual.
Oh yeah, and that was like around the time when the Toonami promos like started kicking in. The Second Coming promo. They had all those promos.
That was badass. Yeah, that's '99. And like we talked about, the Spanish fandom was more early to mid '90s, and the English fandom was mid to late '90s and into the early 2000s. And then, of course, when Dragon Ball Z blew up here, that led to the video game renaissance because there was no Dragon Ball games from '97 till like '01 or '02. And then here comes Budokai. And here comes Budokai 2. And here comes Legacy of Goku. And here comes Tenkaichi. So we had like a whole new level of Dragon Ball games coming out that even Japan enjoyed. Now, what was going on in Japan in the early 2000s is they got the Kanzenban manga for the first time. People were waiting for that. A full like collection of manga. And they got Dragon Ball Z on the Dragon boxes. And for those who don't know, America had bilingual Dragon Ball Z DVDs before Japan did. So some of the Japanese kids were and adults really because they had grown up. They were importing Funimation DVDs to watch them in their language because there were no DVDs until the Dragon boxes came out. And that's a trip. That means that America beat them when it came to DVDs. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. This generation is kind of two different people. One set is people like myself, Mr. Fusion Herms, who watched it syndicated, and we could not wait to see what else was coming. So we started tape trading. And that's how we got to see the Android Saga, Fusion Reborn, all these other things we weren't supposed to see yet. I had the entire Boo Saga, the entire thing before it aired on Toonami, all of it. I never watched the Boo Saga on Toonami except twice, just to see what it was going to be like. So that generation, there's a split because there's people that were a bit younger than us, not much, maybe 5-6 years younger, that
the
watched
post 87s.
Yeah, I would say that watched Dragon Ball Z as a kid. We watched it as like kids going into teenagers. Because in 1999, when season 3 started, I was 15. And so by the time Dragon Ball Z ended in America, I was 19. But there were kids that were 9, not 19, 9. And so it's like 10 years apart. That's your Quamans, your Black and Fist, that group. Dragon Ball Nation, I'm naming other Dragon Ball YouTubers. They all were in that group. So the 90s is like the second big boom period outside of like the Super era because there were a lot of new fans. Toonami really did make a lot of new fans. And even though I hate the censorship of the dub, I'm glad the dub exists at the very least because it kind of built my audience because most of the people that watch me are in that age range.
And now there's something that like I want to know because what's the most mind screwy thing that you had to deal with as a Gen 2er? Because for me and a lot of the Gen 3 kids, like, one of the most confusing things is, like, I thought Gohan's son was Goten. I thought Goten was Gohan's son. And, because all we had was Kai, and we had no Bulwark, but then you had the movies, and then you switched to GT, and you're like, wait, what's going on here? By the time we get to GT, I knew he wasn't his son. But, the first time through, right, you were watching Kai up through the movies from the Bulwark they showed on Nicktoons. I'm thinking, okay, is he Gohan's son? Is that Gohan's kid with Videl?
Well, very similar to you, I thought that Goten was Gohan's son. That is something I think a lot of people thought, because somebody brought to school, because this is all during high school, 9th grade. Somebody had brought to school a wall scroll of the Bio Broly movie poster. This is way before it was dubbed. And you see Broly in the back, like in the Bio Broly in like the tank, and then there's Goten and Trunks firing their blasts. And I thought one of them was Gohan and one of them was Goten. And the guy who had it didn't know shit either, and he told me the same thing. There was another guy named Matt Farmer. I remember this guy vividly, who claims that his favorite episode of Dragon Ball Z is the one where Goku fought King Cold, and Goku was going Super Saiyan 3, and King Cold punched him and knocked him out of the form. Remember that episode? I remember just about
to say, like, when the fuck did that happen?
There was a lot of lies, bro. I was told that in Dragon Ball GT, Goku had a beard. Like, there were a lot of people that claimed to have seen the series that never saw shit.
This is the era where so much BS started to spread from this point onward.
Yeah, but that era of the internet was crazy because there were pictures and shit. We used to have floppy disks that had JPEGs on them, and there was all kinds of shit. We had little clips of like Janemba and Gogeta. Who?
Tablos.
No, this is before that. This is even before that, because I didn't find out about Tablos till later. This is like Ginga Giri Giri, PlanetNamek.com, the Black Goku, who had like really low quality episodes you could download. They were .rm and they were 10 megabyte episodes. You couldn't even see what the hell was going on. This is the early era, and it was this era of like wonderment, of like discovery. Like, who is this Majin Buu? What is this? Who's Dabura? Who's like, you see, like, we when you see Gogeta, you're not even sure what that is. The fusion pose. And then there were other kids in the school that had tapes that I didn't have. And so we traded. And some of the early tapes that I got is I got the Gohan killing Cell, which is episodes 188 to 191. Yeah. And then I got Frieza against Trunks, 119 to 121. I got the Android Saga, which is like 133 to 136. And if you're wondering how I memorized these numbers, it was because of these tapes. Because, people would write the numbers on the tapes. So instead of it being like, instead of it saying Dragon Ball Z Tree of Might, it would say Dragon Ball Z movie number 3. Because everybody numbered. That's why if you listen to podcasts from older Dragon Ball fans, they're always like, oh, I saw movie 7, I saw movie 3. They all talk like that. That's how we all talked. Dragon Ball.
Yeah, because we all had our own lingo. Like, that's the thing about each generation has its own lingo. Like, that's yours.
Right. Yeah, you're right. There was language. Yeah, there was a language thing. But yeah, that's what it became. So what happened was, after the first 2 seasons aired and we had those 2 years of nothing, people like me couldn't wait. So we started to, trade tapes, and I got internet in my home. So the first time I ever had internet in my house was 2000. And like you said, there's kids being born now into homes that have internet before they were born. And that's weird. I did not have internet. It was a luxury until the year 2000. And I found web apps, I guess you can say, like IRC and ICQ. I don't know if they still exist, bro. I'm pretty sure IRC still does. And if you went to IRC, that was a hive for piracy. And there were people there that had all of Dragon Ball. Some had like all of Z. And so what I did is I downloaded something called the Nippon Golden Network episodes. What that was is Dragon Ball and Z aired in a Hawaiian station in Japanese with subtitles on TV for Nippon Golden Network. I had all of those, and that's how I was able to watch OG Dragon Ball start to finish, because of Nippon Golden Network. Also,
yeah, and so by this point, like, did the timeline, the in-universe timeline, it like start unraveling itself in your head? Like, did you start, getting a grasp of how Dragon Ball's timeline actually was? Since you got.
Oh, yes, no, yes, and no. Because before I got those, I read Curtis Hoffman's manga summaries, because he had done all 42 volumes, and I didn't read the manga yet, but I read the summaries of the entire series. This is around 2000, 2001. Like he just did the manga, right? But remember, I saw OG Dragon Ball on TV in those first 13 episodes before Z. So I knew that there was a Dragon Ball before Z. And I knew that when Piccolo was talking about in the early Z about fighting Goku, I knew that was in Dragon Ball. You know what I mean? Like, I just knew, like, I wasn't an idiot. I knew that all that stuff had happened before. I just didn't know where was those episodes at? And we didn't get them till way later. Yeah, we got fucked.